Hello, my name is Barbara. Welcome to Around the WNBA. Listen, we had a game this evening. LA Sparks versus the Indiana Fever. Let's get into it. First, let me just show you a little bit about what the coach said. Coach White said post game. I think it's very telling as to what this game says quite loudly to the Indiana Fever team. Check this out.
I think that we haven't shown a killer instinct yet, and that's we have had a tendency to relax in those moments instead of, for lack of a better term, go for the kill, right? We've had empty possessions where we've been too lax with the basketball and have either taken poor shots or not valued every opportunity we have to score. We've had breakdowns on the defensive end of the floor. It's moments of mental lapses or mental relaxation that you can't have in this league. Lack of communication. We had a lot of people in gray areas. Lack of discipline to our coverages. We just lack of physicality.
Let me just say this, and this is really something I think is important. This game loudly spoke about what the Indiana Fever has to do. If they have not heard it before, they heard it this evening. And you know what? People sometimes are saying this and that about White, but I believe that when she's in that locker room, she turns up the volume much more than what she did in that post interview. Now, before I get into that, my take is this. The reasons are evident why they lost. The fourth quarter is probably one of the most important quarters. They're all important, but the fourth quarter, especially if you're down or if you're on a run, it's an important quarter. It seems like this game, Indiana, first two quarters were doing well. Third quarter, okay. And in the fourth quarter, they started to tank. And that's when the LA Sparks got their running wheels. They got their speed on. They got their game on. Now, why do you think that is? Perhaps they've been watching film on the Indiana Fever. Perhaps they know how good they are in the fourth quarter. All right? So this game was telling. That's why I say that when you're playing basketball, you can't let your opponents know what you're up to and what you're doing. They're going to expect you to do what you have shown them on the tape. They're going to expect you to be the same way you were on that tape. And also how they've seen you play just in general, when they play against you, what have you. So if you don't change it up, and if you don't have your energy in that fourth quarter, guess what? Chances are, whatever run you were on, however many points you had, those points will dwindle. Because now that team knows in the fourth quarter, we're going to kick up some dust. We're going to get these points. And we're going to etch them off the court. And that's what LA did. Okay? So check it out. I think that Coach White gave it to them, and probably has been. There's no way, with the caliber of players that are on these different teams today, in terms of the WNBA, there is no way that the Indiana Fever are going to just skate by without being aggressive, without having grit, without being intentional, without watching their fouling, without watching what they're doing in terms of passing the ball. You can't pass a ball weakly unless you know if you pass the ball softly, it's going to get to the player. But most of the time, you got to be intentional when you pass that ball. You can't, if you give a lead, you can't just let that lead carry you through the rest of the game. You got to make point for point, play for play, and continue that throughout the whole game from start to finish. Doesn't that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. I'm not sure why the Fever are not getting it. The only reason why I can think they're not getting it is because there are some players on that team that have that aggressive energy. Sophie Cunningham. I even think Lexi Hull has that aggressive energy in her. But there's some others that is yet to emerge. It's yet to emerge. Because when it does, they end up fouling the other players. They foul their opponents. And that's not how you use it. When you are aggressive and when you're going, into the paint and doing your thing, you use it to get a bucket. You don't you don't foul your opponent to give them time at the line. That defeats the whole purpose, right? But that's what they were doing, especially in the fourth quarter, when it was not the time to foul at all. They were being, they were absent some kind of way. So chalk it up to being tired, maybe. Chalk it up to maybe I don't care attitude. I don't know what you want to chalk it up to. But they were not doing what they're capable of doing if they play start to finish. Now, mind you, in the first half, let's talk about Howard for a second. We have Howard, who is slow to always come, downhill. She, under the basket, she tries, but even though she has height and a little bit of size, she has nothing to do under the basket. She's got to practice being under the basket, how to get rebounds, and how to hold on to the ball when she gets it, and how to pass the ball when she gets it. I saw her tonight, make so many fumbles in terms of just having like loose fingers with the ball and not being able to hold on to the ball when she's under the basket getting a rebound, and not being able to get the rebound. So I don't know what's going on with her. It's like she needs to be back in the gym maybe, put some weight on, put some muscle on. Maybe, get on the treadmill and run some miles so she can get her stamina up. Because she is definitely lacking in those areas. Now, if she was better in those areas, we could have got many, many, many more buckets. Okay? Now, I got to say this. Even though I know that Mitchell did well tonight, okay? Points were made. But she's got to stop holding on to the ball. Everybody's got to stop holding on to the ball. Pass the ball. Or get the bucket. One or the other. But don't just hold it and run around the court and hold it and run around the court. Unless that's part of your strategy, which evidently it's not working. It's not working. So, I'm just saying that they're doing stuff now that makes no sense, that everybody knows they're going to do. So why wouldn't, Kelsey Plum sit out a little bit more in the first half? Why wouldn't she, just, play it down, the first 3 quarters and then come on strong in the fourth quarter? Makes sense to me. All right, so listen. I can't say it better than Coach White said it. Real talk. She gave some real talk. And I believe in that locker room, she also gave some real talk. I don't think she's coddling them. I really don't. But I think the players are being challenged this season with different teams who present differently, okay, because they have a different strategy. Some of them have better coaches in terms of better coaches than they had last season. And some of them are grit players and aggressive, period. And they're working as a team. They're communicating on the court. Tonight, the communication broke down a few times for the Fever. We saw it. Okay? And again, that aggressiveness, that grit wasn't there. Defending was better. I can't say it was bad. It was better. But could it have been better? Yes, especially in the fourth quarter. Right? So it doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take I mean, it seems like from what the team, in terms of Cunningham, Sophie Cunningham, in the post interview with Aari, Cunningham basically put it down and said, enough is enough. We gotta do this. Because despite Caitlin not playing, despite her injuries, and despite Dantas is not there, despite them not having enough bigs on the team, guess what? They got to play ball. They're professional. If they want to win and get to the playoffs, they got to play some ball. And you know what? This is the best time right now for them to be playing ball, in terms of there are teams who, like I said before, people are thinking that they're going to be winning. Like the Aces. They've been like not winning too much. Okay? But they have some high caliber players on that team. I don't know what's going on with them. That's another video. But the thing is that this is the time for them to put to practice what they're learning, and to really go for it and learn what they need to learn in order to get to the playoffs. And I don't understand it, other than the fact that maybe it's psychological, in terms of their confidence level, in terms of it's not maybe their natural fit to be more aggressive for some players. So they got to learn to unleash that aggressiveness. They got to learn to unleash that grit. They got to learn to unleash all of that fever within them. That could be the case. Perhaps. But it better start happening, because if not, teams are clocking them. Teams are watching them. If they do the same thing over and over again, it's not gonna work. Now, granted, when Clark is on the floor, when she's on the court, there's a different kind of energy that's happening. Whether she's scoring points or not, she is leading. And she is, getting rid of the ball, giving it to people. She is going for layups. I mean, crashing that paint. Right? She's doing all she can when she's not scoring. That's the thing. Let me just say this. That team, without Caitlin playing, should see themselves in a more confident light. Because whether they lose or not when Caitlin's not playing, or not playing up to par because of her not being able to hit the basket like she wants to, there have been times when they have won games despite all of that. So that should boost their confidence, that says, you know what, we can make some points, we can give a good fight in the battle, we can even win. And when Caitlin is here, we're even that much more, going to perhaps win this basketball game. So we're not waiting on Caitlin to win, we're already winning. So we go in there with that attitude, right? Does that make sense? And so I just think that they have to really be about it. And if they don't, no matter what Coach White is going to say, no matter what the other coaches are going to say, if they're not going to be about it, it ain't going to happen. It just really isn't. And tonight was a show of, they just, I know Boston looked a little tired, because she was working hard. And there was really no one to really spell her. Right? There was no one to give her a break, really. Okay? So I'm hoping when they get the next player number 12, it's got to be a big. Not only a big, but a big that's a ball handler, a big that can post up, a big that can be all in that paint, a big can get rebounds, a big that can run the floor back and forth, a big that is about the grit, that is about the hunger to win, that is about that aggressiveness, because that's what they need. and probably going internationally and looking for a player that's international games is probably going to be their best bet, because I don't know anyone who's actually here who's not an actual player internationally that might be here. There's some actually good international players who are here on different teams, but if they're not available, they better go overseas to get someone who has grit and wants to win and is not afraid to take the shot, not afraid to do defense without fouling the opponent. Okay, that's my little rant and my little thing. That's my take on stuff right there. So let's go into the stats for tonight. First quarter, LA 20, Indiana 19. Second quarter, LA 10, Indiana 15. Third quarter, LA 20, Indiana 24. So we see first quarter is pretty even. Now the second and the third quarter, Indiana's pushing, and they're stopping them, and they're pushing. They're up a little bit. Guess what happens in the fourth quarter? What happens in the fourth quarter? LA 35 and Indiana 17. The final score 85 LA and 75 Indiana. So you see in that fourth quarter, either they were fatigued, or they had psychological fatigue, or something happened where they can't keep it up in that fourth. So if these people are not running track and running the field and doing just whatever they can do to keep up their energy through 4 full quarters, especially the fourth, they need to start doing it, because something's got to change with that. Otherwise, all the teams got to do is just wait till the fourth. Wait until the fourth. Then Indiana be too tired. Indiana won't be into the game. They psychologically won't be into the game, so we'll just get them then. I can hear that going on right now. Okay, so check this out. For LA Sparks, Rakia, she made 14 points. Hamby, 14 points. Stevens, 23 points. Plum, 21 points. Petty, 5 points. King, 4 points. Russell, 2 points. Cannon, 2 points. Now check it out. Stevens was going off. She really was going off, because she was under that basket, and she was getting those rebounds, or she was putting it in, one or the other. Whenever she was there, it was either being put in, or she was putting it in herself. Okay, so she was defending, and she also was definitely making some points. And in Plum, she was spot on. She got her 21 points. Now, as far as 3 points made, Plum had 3 out of 6 3-pointers. And Stevens had 1 out of 3, and Rakia had 1 out of 4. All right. Okay, now for Indiana Fever. Lexi Hull, 6 points. Howard had 13 points. Boston had 12 points. Mitchell had 20 points. McDonald had 14 points. Cunningham had 10 points. All right, so that wasn't shabby. That really wasn't shabby, especially for Aari, who just is coming on the team again. 14 points, solid, great. All right. She had 1 out of 4 3-pointers, and let's see, she was like 70% at the free throw line, which is good. She had here 1 assist, so that's something they need to gotta work on it, so she can do more assists for her teammates, because she says here only got 1 assist, so that's not really a good thing. Michaela Timpson played. She got 1 rebound, and pretty much that was it. And Brianna Turner played 1 rebound. Pretty much that was it. So, I don't know. I mean, as far as Timpson and Turner, I'm almost of the mind that if Turner is not being utilized fully, I mean fully, that means getting like 20 minutes in, at least, every game. If she's not being used fully, I'd have to ask myself why. Why is that not happening? Why aren't they utilizing Turner fully? Because if they're not, then why keep her? When you can grab another player, international player or whoever, who is able to actually produce for 20 minutes of each game with no problem. And you can count on them. Timpson. Okay, here we go. Maybe something happened with Timpson in terms of her college record, which is not translating in the WNBA for some reason. I don't know. I wish that Coach White would speak about her. And I don't hear any sports announcers talking about, why don't you play Timpson more? It's almost like there's been something said, you can talk to me about anything, but don't ask me about Timpson. Because no one's even asking the question. And I'm asking the question, and I know some of my subscribers are asking the question too. Why isn't Timpson playing? She's got a wingspan that's wonderful. She's tall. Why isn't she playing? She had a good college record. What's the problem? Let me just speak to Coach White for a second. Coach White, can you please tell us why Timpson is not playing more often? At least having 15, 20 minutes into each game, or at least every other game. Why have you just put her on the bench and only take her out for like short stints? Can you just answer that question for us? Inquiring minds really want to know. Thank you. All right, so if Timpson is not doing what she's supposed to do and being productive and doing what she came to do in the WNBA, why are you keeping her? And again, if there's something that you're working on with her, if she's not quite ready yet for WNBA, prime time, okay. But why aren't you talking about it? Why aren't you sharing about something about what's going on with her and how you're working with her? I think then we would be satisfied. We would know, okay, all right, understandable. But we don't know anything. Nothing. Nothing's being said by the sports people who are there doing interviews or anything. So who knows? All right, I'll leave that alone. LA had 42 points in the paint. Indiana had 28. LA had 4 fast break points. Indiana had 18. So that's good. Indiana had 18. The biggest lead for both of them was 10 points. Bench points. LA had 8 and Indiana had 24. Okay, that's good. They were pretty much even in rebounds, 8 for Los Angeles and 9 for Indiana. Team turnovers. At least LA had 19 and Indiana had 13. But still, 13 turnovers is too much because that gives available points to the other team. So turnovers got to stop. Points off turnovers. For LA, 16. For Indiana, 17. Okay, so it's kind of even there, but still. Who wants to give the other team 16 or 17 points? Right? And they were tied 4 times and had 4 lead changes during the game. Interesting. There's another thing that I want to bring up here, and that is what Aari McDonald said in the post interview, which I thought was very interesting. Check this out.
I was excited for sure, and I knew I was confident I was going to come back. I had talks with Kelly and Amber and Coach before leaving, and it just felt like it was a place to be. I loved the girls; they're amazing. Good basketball players with better human beings. Love the staff, and it just really felt like home. So I'm excited to just play for this organization, just keep building chemistry and getting better.
She tells us out of her own mouth that she knew she was going to come back. That she had talked to the powers that be, and she knew she was coming back. So tell me, if she knew she was coming back from the very beginning, then they also knew, to some degree, that Bonner was going to go. So for what? A week, 10 days or more, people knew this was going to happen. And so I'm thinking, how does all of this contribute to how the Fever have been playing? What went on in the locker room? What went on between players? Did anything go on between players? Did anything happen where it was so significant that it disrupted their whole equilibrium? I'm just curious, because this was all going on under wraps for, 2-3 weeks. So just as the season was getting started, this stuff was going on. I'm thinking, that's my guess. And what I mean by stuff is that things were being unsaid. We didn't know what was going on, but per performance of Bonner, a lot was going on. And so, like someone said to me, there was a handshake deal, between Aari and the powers that be for her to come back. So it was a known fact. It wasn't like, oh, Bonner's leaving, so let's see if she's going to be available. No, it was pretty much known. She said, that she had a couple of people who were interested in her in terms of teams. I'm sure there were. But she knew she was going to come back to Indiana. I mean, I'm thinking that's probably the team to be on. I'm just saying. And it's really not about whether they're winning or losing. It's the team and the players on the team, specifically CeCe, who brings revenue, who probably makes different things go on that we don't even see. So I found that interesting. So anyways, all that being said, I think that the reasons why this was a loss was evident. The loss spoke loudly, saying, you don't practice good defense, you don't be aggressive, you don't have grit, if you don't come prepared, if you don't last the whole 4 quarters, if you don't play with confidence, if you don't communicate with your teammates, guess what? You're going to lose. Not just to the LA Sparks, but to probably any team, unless they're doing worse than you. So, all right. So if you are enjoying my content, my perspective on things around the WNBA, I appreciate you. And I ask you, if you haven't already, to subscribe. If you've come to my page and you liked what you see posted there, you like the content on my channel, then just subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm almost halfway there, but I want to go to 1,000 subscribers, and you can help me with that. So I appreciate that. I thank you for the help in advance. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up. That's very important in this algorithm thing I'm learning about. And also, don't forget to tap the bell, because when you do, you'll be notified when new content is posted. So, all that said, the game tonight at times was a battle. At times we did see competition. At times we saw a good game go on. Could it have been better? Absolutely. And I think the Fever know that. I think the coaching staff know that. And I think that from this moment on, they got to get together. They got another game coming. Like soon, like when? Like real soon. So they got to get together. And I think they're going to be playing the Dallas Wings. And they want to win. The Dallas Wings want to win. Coming off of some losses, they want to win. Okay? Just like the Sparks wanted to win. So we'll see what the Fever has for the Wings. So until next time, thank you for viewing. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. And like always, go Fever. Till next time, take care. Peace.